Over the weekend, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife were captured by U.S. forces. They're now facing charges including narco-terrorism, drug trafficking, and weapons offenses. They're due in court today. Joining us now to talk about the operation, what happens now, Oklahoma U.S. Senator James Lankford. Senator Lankford, thank you so much for coming in today. I know you're busy. You're flying out later today, so we appreciate you coming in this morning. Let's talk about what happened here this week. And I want to first start with how the capture of Maduro advances U.S. interest in Venezuela.
So this was a law enforcement operation. They keep looking at it as a military. Obviously, the military is needed to go actually execute the indictment that's been sitting out there for now 5 years for Maduro and for his wife. They're the lead people in trying to be able to push cocaine out of Colombia into the United States. Not a little bit, by the hundreds of tons that they have moved through Colombia into Venezuela and then facilitated that. They are partnering with the Sinaloa cartel to bring it through Mexico. They facilitate its trafficking out. So just stopping the trafficking of that much of cocaine coming into the United States will have a very big impact on the flow of drugs into our country. So that is the first issue. Again, this is a 5-year-long indictment. We've had a $50 million reward on his head. No one has flipped on him to be able to release him. But now he's actually in an American jail and he'll go through American justice.
Okay, you talked about the drug interest here. Can you tell us a little bit more about the U.S. interest in oil as well? I know the president has brought that up as well.
Yeah, the president brought that up several times. It was very interesting. Chevron has operations there. And what has happened over the past couple of decades, basically, with both Maduro and then his predecessors on this, is they've run oil operations into the ground. They've taken over American property there. That was actually oil operations. So the president mentioned that Venezuela has the greatest amount of oil reserves in the world, more than Saudi Arabia, more than the Emirates, more than the United States. They have these enormous oil operations that are there, but the country's incredibly poor. Maduro has also been oppressive. He's been a person who's tortured just thousands of people and killed thousands of people that were there. That has led to 7 million people fleeing out of Venezuela, which has destabilized that entire region. If they can get their industry back online, they should be one of the wealthiest countries in the world, not one of the poorest. And so the president's focus was, we want the people of Venezuela to be wealthy. We want that to be a stable country, not destabilizing and sending people out all over the world, including into the United States. And so the focus is, how can we get their economy going again so that they're a stable country in the Western Hemisphere, not interfering with United States interests and not destabilizing everybody else?
Can you walk us through the administration's decision to act now? You mentioned a 5-year indictment. Why now?
Yeah, so several reasons on that. One is just the push of drugs that are actually coming in. The president, when he came in January, said we are going to stop the flow of drugs into the United States. He's been very active in shutting down our southern border, been very focused on what are we doing to reduce fentanyl coming in from China, to make sure that we also are working directly against the cartels in northern Mexico to stop the flow there, and then also focused on cocaine from Colombia and from Venezuela, that transport location on that. So he's gone through every single stage on that. With Venezuela in particular, he's been very focused. He's offered to Maduro to be able to leave. He is not the recognized leader by most of the world as the actual elected leader. He actually lost the election. It was about 70% of the vote was against Maduro last time. He just stayed in power anyway. And so he is not the legitimate leader there. So there's been a push to say, we'll help you get to another country to be able to get out. He turned down that offer. We put pressure on his oil shipments, on his drug shipments going out, and finally said if he won't turn down on all those things, we'll just remove him and bring him to an American court.
Now, you mentioned this being a law enforcement operation. There are still a lot of questions about the legality of this operation. In the simplest terms, can you explain to everyone why this was legal, how it was legal?
Sure. Yeah, this is an American court out of New York that actually indicted him 5 years ago. He has had this ongoing bounty on him for now 5 years to say there's a reward for his capture and his release. We put sanctions on him. This was a move to be able to go and say this is an internationally recognized narco-terrorist, drug kingpin, basically. He needs to be removed and to actually face justice for what he has done. So this was not regime change, though it is, because he's not the head of state, because he's not actually the elected leader of Venezuela. That's the hard part about this. People saying it's regime change. Actually, the people of Venezuela already voted for someone else to be the leader of Venezuela. This was an opportunity to be able to pick him up, to be able to remove the direct threat to the United States, have him face justice in the United States. This is similar to the operation that was done in Panama back in the late 80s when we went in and got Manuel Noriega and picked him up and moved him into the United States as well.
Now, on the topic of legality, congressional reaction is split. A lot of members of Congress, especially on the Democratic side, say that they should have been told in advance. Were you told in advance about this operation?
I was not, and you're right. Congress should have been consulted. We don't actually have to give authority for a law enforcement operation to actually go get him, but we should have had notification, and it should have been actually to the leaders of the House and the Senate, both Republican and Democrat, before the operation began. I've heard several folks in the administration say there wasn't time to do that. We had 150 aircraft in the air. There was time to be able to notify, hey, in the next 2 hours, this is about to happen. That kind of notification is typically a courtesy. We're going to have classified briefings on it all this week. Many of us will be sitting in a classified setting talking through how the decisions were made and what was done. I'm incredibly grateful, though, that we've got one of the biggest drug kingpins in all of the Western Hemisphere now facing American justice. That is very important. The process argument, we'll deal with the process argument in the days ahead. The essential thing is we're now actually stopping the flow of drugs coming to the United States, both fentanyl coming from China and from northern Mexico and cocaine coming out of Colombia and Venezuela.
Now, with the capture of Maduro and whatever is happening next in Venezuela, what does that mean for the U.S. economy?
It's significant for the U.S. economy in several ways. One is obviously the flow of refugees that have come from that area. The United States has provided assistance down into that part of the world to try to stabilize other countries, to be able to work with other countries to take in Venezuelan refugees. We've done that for years. We've taken in hundreds of thousands of Venezuelan refugees as well into the United States. We want to be able to see some of those folks have the opportunity to be able to return home to a stable country. Venezuela is a long-term, very stable, very prosperous country. We want them to be able to succeed again. We want good trade partners in the Western Hemisphere. We want stable relations with countries in the Western Hemisphere. That matters to us personally. It matters on the oil front. You mentioned about that before, because we do have American companies that are also invested there. That'll make a difference for that region and for those countries. But for, quite frankly, for the United States, it's just destabilizing to have a lot of refugees to be able to come in constantly that are looking to go home. They're not looking to have America as home. They're looking as a temporary spot and then want to be able to head back to their home place.
And before we go, Maduro expected in court today. What can we expect to happen today and moving forward?
I think it'll be a procedural motion today. There won't be a lot of drama. I wouldn't expect today. He and his wife both will stand there. The indictment will be read. They'll put in their plea at that point, and they'll be removed. This will look very similar to another high-profile case here in the United States. It'll take several years. I do encourage folks to read the indictment. It's a 25-page indictment that is out, that's public, that kind of lays out the evidence against him and shows just how long he has been facilitating drugs coming into the United States. Even before he was president, he was foreign minister of Venezuela, and he was coordinating diplomatic, quote-unquote, flights coming in and out to transport drugs and money back and forth. And so he's been facilitating drugs coming to the United States for 20 years. It's time he faces justice.
All right, something we'll continue following here very closely. Senator Lankford, thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate your time.
No, thank you.